Video games, are they good or bad? There are controversial answers to this question, and one does not necessarily outweigh the other. In this video, you will see and hear both sides to this question. Let's get it started. Is there really such thing as an addiction to video games? Well, the answer is yes. Many people get addicted to being in a virtual world rather than being in a real world. In the following video, the speaker focuses on how the brain is affected by the virtual world versus the real world.
When I'm playing Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty, my brain is totally absorbed in its virtual environment. But what happens to my brain when I come out of it? Does it come out different? Hey everyone, thank you for watching D-News Today. I'm Trace. This week, we humans will spend 3 billion hours playing video games. This week, 1.2 billion people play regularly. 99% of boys and 94% of girls under 18 lock their eyeballs on a video game, quote, regularly, according to game designer and author Jane McGonigal. That's an incredible amount of time living in what amounts to an alternate reality for the brain. A study from the Proceedings of the Royal Society B that came out last December looked at the brains of gamers while playing and offer another alleged turn in the thumbscrews of action games. Their study found that video game players have a less robust striatum nucleus, a part of the brain that constructs an internal representation of the outside world. Essentially, games aren't helping people learn to map the real world out here. Action gamers are using something called response learning instead of the more advanced place learning. To simplify, imagine you're trying to get to your familiar place, like your friend's house or a favorite restaurant. Response learning is when your brain creates a map using landmarks, but place learning is an advanced internal map, so you know to turn based on distance and direction, not just like that there's a McDonald's right there. It's the difference between associating a lot of little bits of information, I have to turn when I see the McDonald's, as opposed to combining that information into an understanding of the external world. These researchers think that the action video game players are underdeveloping their striatum to such a degree that it might affect them throughout their lives.
In the previous video, it discussed video game addiction. Now let's think about health-related issues from gaming. Playing video games for long periods of time can lead to less physical activity and then in turn can lead to obesity for any ages. There are several video games based on violence and fighting. Too much exposure to these types of games can lead to aggressive behavior outside the virtual reality world. These behaviors are seen not only at home but in the school setting too.
And I'm especially interested in the possibility of making our brains smarter, better, and faster. This is in this context I'm going to tell you about video games. When we say video game, most of you think about children. It's true, 90% of children do play video games. But let's be frank. When the kids are in bed, who is in front of the PlayStation? Most of you. The average age of a gamer is 33 years old, not 8 years old. And in fact, if we look at the projected demographics of video game play, the video game players of tomorrow are older adults. So video games is pervasive throughout our society. It is clearly here to stay. It has an amazing impact on our everyday life. Consider these statistics released by Activision. After 1 month of release of the game Call of Duty Black Ops, it had been played for 68,000 years worldwide, right? Would any of you complain if this was a case about doing linear algebra? So what we're asking in the lab is how can we leverage that power? Now I want to step back a bit. I know most of you have had the experience of coming back home and finding your kids playing these kind of games. The name of the game is to get after your enemy, zombie, bad guys before they get to you, right? And I'm almost sure most of you have thought, oh, come on, can't you do something more intelligent than shooting at zombies? I'd like you to put this kind of knee-jerk reaction in the context of what you would have thought if you had found your girl playing Sudoku or your boy reading Shakespeare, right? Most parents would find that great. Well, I'm not going to tell you that playing video games days in and days out is actually good for your health. It's not. And binging.
Lastly, many children are so hooked to video games that they lack social skills and become isolated from their peers and society in general. This can lead to depression and possible suicidal thoughts. While there are negative impacts of video gaming, there are just as many, if not more, positive impacts of gaming for the young and old. Doctors, psychologists, and many other specialists believe that gaming can benefit children if played in moderation.
Having said that, many studies have actually shown increases in cognitive function after playing video games. One study in particular had participants play Super Mario 64 for 30 minutes a day over 2 months. Afterwards, the brains of these participants saw an increase of gray matter in areas associated with memory, strategic planning, and fine motor skills of the hands compared to those who had not played. These are particularly encouraging results for mental disorders which cause these brain regions to shrink, using video games as a therapy. Surprisingly, action games can also increase attention to detail in individuals.
Playing video games are not just for fun, although most individuals may think so. Gaming can provide additional support to individuals, such as allowing them to focus on detail in depth, keeping their attention, and enhancing their memory. One of the greatest positive impacts regarding video games is using them for educational purposes. Knowing that we live in a technological world, it is no surprise classrooms use gaming as a way to enhance learning for children of all ages. Another positive impact of video games on people is using them for physical activity. Yes, that's right, gaming can help individuals become active. For example, the game system the Wii has been used to help physically handicapped individuals strengthen their body by playing interactive sports games.
Finally, as technology continues to transform medicine, surgeries are being completed with the insertion of cameras and remote-controlled tools. And these surgeries have very clear parallels to video games with a screen and a controlling device. Not surprisingly, young doctors with previous exposure to video games show fewer errors and faster completion than those without. Of course, all of these skills are only useful if you use them, which you can't if all you do is play video games. So enjoy your downtime and relax with your games in moderation, but get out there and keep your life diverse as well, because that's how you'll win at the game of life.